Alright, this is Christopher Foss once again, and this is request assigned for Jordan. The name of this video is Top 6 Worst SpongeBob Episodes. Okay, let's check it out, baby.
It's time to check out the last tiny shred of creativity, not yet destroyed by the corporate pinheads running Nickelodeon. SpongeBob. As much as I enjoy this cheery sponge's underwater fast food routines, over the years he has managed some bad episodes, worthy of song. So, in order to honor the dim-witted, Nimrod moves Nickelodeon's been making to stifle all creativity left on their network,
SpongeBob was good for the
let's check out
time.
the top 6
The movie
worst
was really good
SpongeBob
too.
episodes.
Watched
And
in
as always,
theaters.
if you do like these episodes, that's great. It's just my usual silly personal opinion, and I'm glad you can enjoy these episodes. So take this list with a pinch of salt. Anyway, let's do this countdown. Number 6, the Splinter.
Yeah, this one was
SpongeBob,
gross.
surprise, gets a splinter. In fact, he gets the ultimate mother of all splinters. A huge, pus-filled, blood-spewing, vein-filled splinter.
Gross.
And lucky us, we
This should not have been in a kids show.
as it's slowly inserted into the skin. And the rest
That's
of the
not for
episode
kids.
is
I don't care what
pretty
people
much
say.
watching the splinter get more and more revolting. And finally, watching Patrick slowly nail the splinter further into SpongeBob's thumb, covering it in garbage to infect it, and finally leaving it looking like a gangrenous, festering horror. Ugh. For starters, this doesn't actually make sense. Given
It doesn't.
SpongeBob's anatomic structure, how does he even get a blood-spewing splinter anyway? I mean, he's called SpongeBob, but you really do have to give the creators credit for making an injury look so painful, and yet managing to sneak this much horrifying imagery past the censors. The splinter has a lousy premise. Not much happens, and it is downright agonizing to watch. And for number 5, SpongeBob, you're fired.
I don't think I've seen this episode. SpongeBob, you're fired.
Or you could get another job, maybe? I mean, Mr. Krabs openly admits he only pays you a nickel a day. Why don't you be a jellyfish park ranger or something? You love jellyfish.
Yeah.
SpongeBob becomes miserably depressed because he's fired from his fry cook job. In fact, from losing his fry cook job, he loses all faith in himself and all energy to live. First off, I want to say this is a downright bad example for kids. You don't have to define yourself by your job. You should define yourself by how you treat others or the hobbies you enjoy. I think people dislike this episode so much because it is a complete change of character for the Sponge we knew. The real SpongeBob we know wouldn't be this crushed and useless after a small setback. But this SpongeBob just becomes empty and cynical. The words empty, cynical, and SpongeBob just don't go in the same sentence.
Yeah.
It's unusually discriminating against the unemployed, really.
What are you doing with these here freeloaders? I got fired. Now I'm unemployed.
Maybe the creators were trying to discourage young people
From
from leaving
employing?
their jobs. I don't know. But I was not a fan of this episode. And the 4th worst SpongeBob episode is Pet Sitter Pat.
This one was
This is
bad.
the episode where we watch Patrick
God, this one was
transition
just...
from a lovable stooge to a cruel, apathetic jerk. When SpongeBob leaves the house for the week, we watch Patrick starve Gary to death while torturing him at the same time. And much of the episode is Gary crying in terror and suffering as Patrick laughs inanely. Eventually, because of Patrick's stupidity, Gary turns into a vicious feral monster. That's it, Gary. Attack Patrick. Even I want to see Patrick torn to shreds at this point. This episode really drove home for me why Patrick is one of the most hated cartoon characters. He's not just stupid, but uncaring towards others' feelings. He doesn't even try to do
That's
right
what Leah
by
was to me,
SpongeBob
my
and treat his
dumbass
well.
stepdad
As the
caring,
episode drags on,
doesn't care about my
Gary's
feelings.
forced into hiding in order to survive Patrick's rampant stupidity. Until eventually, Patrick tries to set Gary on fire with a flamethrower. How did we even get fire in the sea anyway? It's the ocean.
Yeah.
Get fire
How
and water
is
and
that
stuff.
even
And
mildly
finish this
possible even in
episode
a
off with
cartoon?
Patrick trying to kill Gary with salt. Sure, why not? This is not Patrick's best moment. And the 3rd worst SpongeBob episode is Demolition Doofus.
This
I thought
one
it
was
felt
weird.
bad for Mrs. Puff, but I do get the joke. SpongeBob can be a nuisance. But this episode felt more like watching her be repeatedly tormented to the brink of insanity.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm watching this hidden,
This one's fucked up.
evil side of the writers whenever I see Mrs. Puff. I just never found it that funny or entertaining to continually watch Mrs. Puff suffer. We start the episode off by SpongeBob permanently injuring her, leaving her hospitalized. At this point, she finally snaps, and we watch her slowly seethe with hate until she eventually decides she needs to kill SpongeBob. I could finally be rid of SpongeBob. Wait, what? Surely on a kid's network, trying to kill SpongeBob is crossing the line just
Yeah.
I mean, even Squidward wouldn't try to kill SpongeBob, and he is forced to work with him every single day. To me, anyway.
Well, Squidward seems more of a careless and Mrs. Puff.
Person is not really a comfortable experience, and I never quite got the joke of continually beating Mrs. Puffs down until she's miserable. By the end, I really do wish SpongeBob would graduate and Mrs. Puffs would be given peace. And the second worst SpongeBob episode is Stuck in the Ringer.
This one was just plain out terrible. I hated this episode.
Surprise, torments SpongeBob, gluing his friend permanently into
Yeah,
the
Patrick
device
is
so he
fucking
can't
stupid for doing
work
that shit.
Or even move his hands. I don't even get it. How could stupidity even guide someone to glue someone into place? That seems more like something that would actually take intelligence and malice. This process leaves SpongeBob injured, miserable, and dead inside. This episode is beyond excruciating, and for once, SpongeBob finally complains to Patrick about his passive-aggressive, nasty behavior.
You know how I feel about you ruining my life.
And he damn well should stand up for himself. And in response, the entire park turns on him for complaining about being abused, claiming he has a bad heart. What kind of twisted, mean-spirited, botched-up moral is that? And just to top off the distasteful pile, we are finally subjected to imagery of SpongeBob having become paralyzed and insane after the endless abuse and trauma he suffered. Sometimes there's a lazy, boring episode of SpongeBob, and with 10 seasons, who can blame the occasional stinker?
Yeah.
But this is just outright cruel.
It
I
is.
guess crying does solve your problems after all.
That's a bad message for kids.
And before we get to number one, I'd like to give the usual quick, dishonorable mentions. A pal for Gary.
This one was just creepy and not for kids. Kids would be scared shitless of shit like this in a cartoon.
Tries to eat Gary the whole episode. It's pretty horrible. Squid Bob Tentacle Pants.
This one's too scary for kids too.
Oh, truth or swear, endless flashbacks. And as much as I think Tom Kenny is awesome, watching 60 straight minutes of him pulling...
Watch him as Uncle Howie in the Haunting Hour, then you get your fucking nightmares.
How bored the kids must have gotten seeing all these random grown-ups they didn't know. That being said, I did really like the Scurvy song by Pink. Anyway, here we go. And the number one worst SpongeBob episode is...
What is it?
One Course Meal.
This one was
One before,
just
but there
mean-spirited,
really is
man.
no topping the cruelty in this episode. Who came up with the idea of watching Plankton tortured to the point of insanity and suicide and said,
Yeah, that's a great idea for a kid's cartoon.
our friend Plankton turns out to
Most of
be
the episodes should not be in a kids' show.
fear by the side of whales. So the creators dedicated the entire episode to torturing Plankton in fear, to the point where he is isolated, broken down, and attempts to kill himself. To which Krabs laughs with glee. Jeepers.